When Barbara Eden's son was found lifeless in a parked truck at a Los Angeles gas station in 2001, the world saw only the surface of a tragedy. But beneath that heartbreaking discovery lay secrets that had been festering for decades, a web of pain that stretched back to when he was just 10 years old. The blonde bombshell who made millions laugh as TV's most famous genie had been living a nightmare that no amount of magic could fix. Eden's rise to stardom wasn't the fairy tale everyone imagined. Born in 1931, she spent years grinding through the Hollywood machine, appearing on Johnny Carson's show by 1955 and bouncing between guest spots and supporting roles. She worked alongside every major star of the 50s, from Lucille Ball to Andy Griffith, but real recognition stayed just out of reach. Sure, she got to star opposite Elvis Presley in Flaming Star in 1960, but even that wasn't enough to break through. She was talented, beautiful, and working constantly, yet something was missing from both her career and her personal life. That missing piece seemed to appear in the most unexpected way. In 1957, Eden was starring in the TV version of How to Marry a Millionaire, and her studio, 20th Century Fox, had a problem with her relationship status. She was dating a regular guy, someone outside the industry, and the executives hated it. They wanted glamour, publicity, the kind of buzz that only comes from celebrity couples. So they did what Hollywood does best. They manufactured a solution. Fox arranged a date between Eden and Broken Arrow heartthrob Michael and Sarah, thinking it would generate some headlines and maybe a few magazine covers. Neither actor expected anything real to come from this publicity stunt. But chemistry doesn't follow scripts. Within a year, they were married, and suddenly Eden's personal life looked picture perfect from the outside. But perfection in Hollywood is almost always an illusion. The newlyweds wanted children desperately, but month after month, year after year, nothing happened. 6 years of trying with no success would break most couples, and the strain was beginning to show. Eden was exhausted, juggling a demanding career with the emotional weight of infertility, and by the early 60s, she was running on empty. Then came 1964 and a forgettable comedy called The Brass Bottle, where a man accidentally releases a genie from an ancient vessel. Critics absolutely destroyed the film, with one calling it about as funny as your own funeral. Eden had another supporting role in what seemed like another dud. Except this particular failure would change everything. Producer Sidney Sheldon caught The Brass Bottle and saw something nobody else did: potential. He was trying to develop NBC's answer to ABC's hit show Bewitched, and suddenly he had his concept. What if instead of a witch, the magical being was a genie? And what if that genie was a woman hopelessly devoted to the man who freed her? There was just one problem with his vision. Sheldon was determined to cast a brunette because Elizabeth Montgomery from Bewitched was blonde, and he wanted his show to stand apart. Barbara Eden, with her signature blonde hair, didn't even get considered at first. Audition after audition, though the brunettes just couldn't nail the character. Finally, Sheldon gave up on his vision and called Eden. The moment she read for him, he knew she was perfect, blonde hair and all. And on the very same day Sheldon told her she'd landed the role of Genie, Eden discovered she was finally pregnant. Most actresses would panic at getting their biggest break and finding out they're expecting simultaneously, but Sheldon moved fast. They cranked out 13 episodes before Eden started showing, and after that, clever camera work and strategic draping kept the secret hidden. Her son Matthew was born in 1965, right as I Dream of a Jenny was becoming a phenomenon. Everything was finally falling into place. The career, the family, the life she'd dreamed about for years. But behind the scenes, tension was already building. Larry Hagman, who played Captain Tony Nelson, wasn't happy with the scripts and frequently sulked on set. At one point, his frustration boiled over so badly that he literally threw a script on the ground and urinated on it. That's the level of dysfunction happening while millions of Americans watched what they thought was wholesome entertainment. The show became a massive success despite NBC's initial skepticism. They'd forced the first season to be shot in black and white to save money, convinced the show wouldn't last. Instead, it ran for 5 seasons and 139 episodes, spawning everything from board games to an animated series. Eden was now a household name, recognized everywhere she went. But fame brought its own problems, including an absurd controversy that seems laughable now, but was deadly serious then. In early episodes, Eden's costume occasionally slipped enough to show her belly button, and one reporter decided this was scandalous. The article sparked a media frenzy, and NBC issued an ironclad rule: absolutely no belly button could appear on screen. The network was more concerned about a woman's navel than the creative quality of their hit show. For 4 seasons, the show walked a careful line with Tony and Jeannie's relationship. She was devoted to him, he tried to maintain boundaries, and that tension kept viewers hooked. Then, in season 5, the writers made a catastrophic decision. They got married. Eden's stomach dropped when she heard the plan because she understood her character and knew this would ruin everything that worked. The ratings proved her right. Audiences lost interest and NBC canceled the show. At the exact same time her career hit this wall, her personal life shattered in the worst way imaginable. She was 8 months pregnant with her second child when the baby was stillborn. The grief was unimaginable, compounded by her show's cancellation and the growing problems in her marriage. While Eden had become a star, Ansara's career was stalling, and the imbalance created constant friction between them. Now, faced with the loss of their baby and uncertain professional futures, Eden did what she'd always done. She threw herself into work. She starred in 3 TV movies in rapid succession, but working non-stop couldn't stop her from falling into a severe depression. By 1974, after years of struggling both publicly and privately, Eden and Ansara divorced. She was alone, depressed, and entering one of the darkest periods of her life. And the decisions she made during this time would haunt her for decades. Eden's next relationship happened when she was at her most vulnerable, and she later admitted that extreme loneliness drove her into the arms of Charles Fegert. At first, he seemed like a bright spot in her darkness, but once they married, everything changed. Fegert started partying constantly, staying out into all hours, while Eden, who'd never enjoyed that lifestyle, stayed home. The marriage deteriorated rapidly, faster than her first one had, and then things turned violent. Fegert became physically abusive, and Eden finally found the strength to leave, divorcing him in 1982 after 5 brutal years. She'd survived 2 failed marriages, the loss of a child, and the end of her iconic show. The worst was still coming. Throughout all this chaos, Eden's son Matthew was growing up, and the divorce from Ansara had affected him deeply. He'd chosen to live with his father initially, but eventually moved back with Eden after her split from Fegert. She probably hoped they could heal together, but Matthew was already spiraling. Eden noticed he was sleeping constantly and had almost no energy. When he claimed to be attending Valley College, she believed him, until one day she tried to drop off a forgotten textbook at campus. The registrar's office told her Matthew wasn't enrolled. He'd been lying for months. When she confronted him, he exploded and disappeared, living on the streets before a friend took him in. The truth came out slowly, piece by devastating piece. Matthew wasn't just struggling, he was a drug addict, and he'd been using since he was 10 years old, right after his parents' divorce. Eden and Ansara suddenly understood that while they'd been dealing with their own problems, their son had been self-medicating his pain for years. They threw themselves into getting him help. Attending meetings, doctor's appointments, endless counseling sessions. Eden spoke with professionals who convinced her that tough love was the answer. So when Matthew started stealing from his parents to support his habit, she made the agonizing decision to kick him out of the house. For 14 years, Matthew cycled in and out of rehab, up one month and down the next. In the early 2000s, there was finally hope. He'd gotten clean and was even engaged to be married. Maybe, after all these years, he was gonna make it. Then came that call in late June 2001, the one Eden had been dreading for over a decade. Matthew's body had been found in his truck at a gas station. He'd been clean for a while, which the police explained was actually the most dangerous time. His tolerance was down, and what used to be his normal dose had been enough to end his life. Eden was heartbroken but not surprised. She'd been preparing for this possibility every day for years. The guilt and anger that followed nearly consumed her. She questioned every decision. Should she have been stricter or more lenient? Was tough love the right approach, or had she abandoned him when he needed her most? These questions don't have easy answers, and Eden spent years in therapy working through her grief. Eventually, she chose to speak openly about Matthew's addiction and her role in it, hoping that sharing her story might help other families recognize the warning signs earlier than she did. She wanted some meaning to come from the senseless loss. Eden's career continued through all this pain. She starred in Harper Valley PTA and its TV adaptation, and in the 90s, Larry Hagman repaid her patience from their Genie days by getting her a recurring role on Dallas, where she played one of J.R. Ewing's nemesis. In 1991, she married real estate executive John Eichholz, finally finding the stable relationship that had eluded her for so long. At 94 years old, she still attends conventions and embraces her Genie legacy, meeting fans who have no idea about the darkness she survived. She's also the last one standing. Larry Hagman passed away in 2012 from throat cancer. Bill Daly, who played Roger, died in 2018. Eden is the sole survivor of I Dream of Jeannie's main cast, carrying the memories of that magical show and all the pain that happened behind the scenes. She's never been afraid to look back, to acknowledge both the joy of her career and the tragedies of her personal life. That willingness to be honest, to share the worst moments in hopes of helping others, shows a strength that has nothing to do with playing a magical character on TV. The woman who granted wishes for 5 seasons on TV couldn't save her own son from his demons. No amount of fame, money, or determination could fix what was broken in Matthew. Eden has had to live with that reality for over 2 decades now, knowing that sometimes love isn't enough, that addiction doesn't care about celebrity or privilege. Her story reminds us that the people we see on screen, the ones who make us laugh and escape our problems for 30 minutes, are fighting battles we know nothing about. Behind every iconic performance is a real person dealing with real pain, and sometimes that pain is more than anyone should have to bear.